Hi, and welcome to A Soulful Revolution, a podcast at the intersection of spiritual transformation and social change. I'm Hannah Curtis, your co host, mother, mentor, agitator, friend, and sincerely curious person.
And I'm Lauren Grubaugh Thomas, your other co host. I'm a mother, a spouse, a writer, a priest, a gatherer of dissident communities. And today's guest is Robert Monson. Robert is a runner, a musician, and a Black theologian committed to softness, contemplation, and liberation for all. He's a current PhD student studying the intersection of Black liberation theology and womanist theology while guided by the question, how can we help facilitate community and provide answers to a hurting world that is reeling? Robert, we are so honored and delighted to have you with us on the show today. Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Hey.
Robert, we start the podcast by asking each other a check-in question, and we'd like to include you in this conversation too. Lauren and Robert, what are the states of your souls in this season for the struggle for justice? Lauren, I'd love to hear from you.
I find myself today really full of small consolations, the consolations of connection with dear friends that I've had in the last few days that have really filled my bucket. But I've been thinking in this Ignatian model around consolations and desolations, and the desolation has just been feeling the despair of so many people that I love who are feeling really, really heavy with the weight of the world. And so in those moments of connection, I feel really fueled in my soul by people that I love who are doing such beautiful work in spite of everything. And also feeling just the heaviness and the grief and the lament that all of us are collectively experiencing right now. Robert, what about you?
Oof, the answer to this depends on the day, the hour, the lunar cycle. My God. I think today I feel individually hopeful within myself, that intrinsic hopefulness that's coming from within despite this country and society. And to your point, you only have to have a bit of empathy to feel the heaviness that resides in our country and in our world. And so, personally hopeful as I look collectively at the griefs that we face. It's saddening, it's maddening. It does keep me up at night. So so that's how I would discern where I'm at and where we are.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Hannah, what about you?
I echo what both of you have said. I don't think it's possible right now to be a human and not feel, Robert, like you said, it doesn't take much to notice just the heaviness of what we're all experiencing. I'm coming to you all as an Austin resident now, Austin, Texas, but getting to know this place and having moved here in the last few months, the weather here is very interesting. There is so much humidity in the air. It is so palpable. And yet there's that threat, that presence of the possibility of rain. And yet Austin's in a drought right now. So it feels like I'm holding these parallel competing truths, right? That there is the anticipation of rain. The presence is on the way. And yet we're not there yet, right? And of course that metaphor writes itself. But that I think we have to do both. We have to acknowledge the suffering and the struggle. And we have to stay committed to being hopeful. My patron saint, one of my inspirations, the Reverend Polly Murray, said, "Hope is a song in a weary throat." And we are so, so weary. And we're still so hopeful. So I echo you both. And I'm grateful to be here. Again, what a gift to try again.
Hey.
Yeah. Every day, new beginning. Robert, we've been so looking forward to this conversation with you, especially given the ways that your work of doing theology is deeply integrated with embodiment. And so we wanted to start by asking you the question, when you think about the story of your body and your theology, where do those two stories meet?
Oof. How much time do we have? I
The whole episode.
I think I would the point of entry for me has to be as a child. I grew up in Chicago, the south side of Chicago, and I grew up as a black atheist, and that is so important for me to note because the conceptions of atheism are usually painted by, Christians, and they're not great. And so I was spiritual way before I ever became a Christian. And there were ethics, there were practices, there were rituals that held me, though I did not believe in the concept of God that I do now, right? And so there was a spirituality that was there. And so my theology goes there too. And so I was marked in the world by being a black child of Chicago. And so I grew up with what I now have is a neurological condition that causes me deep pain, the most severe migraines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, pain. And so as I grew and now this 41-year-old person looking back, I think there was always this thread of pain and suffering in the body and the body not being quite right. And then being black, being not quite right, quote unquote, for white society, right? And so all of my spirituality and theological premises wind through what does it mean to exist in this world in a black disabled body, in a body that does not cooperate in the ways that I need it to, that does not cooperate in the ways that I desire it to. And so in a nutshell now, I think the threads that I wind now is that even though this body is a pain body, it is a good body. And I walk alongside God and I walk alongside the Spirit and understanding who I am in each moment and what my body needs in each moment. And sometimes taking a deep breath is not helpful for me because I'm trying to escape my body, right? Sometimes I need a refuge place. And so I'm walking alongside God with a pained body that doesn't fit white supremacist aesthetics.
I'm actually really struck by this image that you use the word, forgive me, did you say companioning with
Yes.
God?
Yeah, walking alongside companioning. Yes, I love
Right?
that.
But that we serve and understand a God whose body was also made not good, right? Whose body was also, I guess we could use the language, and I want to be really careful here because there's a lot of theology implied in the usage of a lot of these words.
Yes.
But there's an image here for me of your body as you imagine it and the body of God as we have been told about it. That those are never not in lockstep. There's something really beautiful about that to me. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I would say one other thing on that note is it has been hard. I hear the hesitancy in you saying, like there are traditions, toxic ideologies and theologies wrapped up in every word and what we think about the body. Does God cause suffering? Does God make
Right.
all of these things? And I have found in my journey less curiosity about did God cause this? I don't believe this. I don't believe that God did. But I have said we can accompany one another on this journey and my suffering and this body that is politicized, it is not foreign to you. You know, darkness is as light to you. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all of this is open before you. And so, even what it means to be disabled and black, and have a theology that God knows the intricacies of what that means. And
Right.
to grow up as a poor, disabled, black male in society, all of those have there's a richness in unpacking all of those with God. And the biggest thing that I have understood with the Spirit is that the Spirit is yearning alongside with me, and that the Spirit is wanting to unpack all of those terms, all of that understanding with me. And I don't have great answers for all of them, but I do know that the Spirit yearns with me.
Amen to that times 1,000. And thank you for your graciousness. That feels like a real invitation to those around you. And I wonder if this is a nice point to talk about your work with Infleshed, of as you have kind of invited us and our listeners into this understanding. Infleshed is the organization of which you're the co-director. And I would love to hear you talk more about what that witness looks like as an invitation to the wider church. If you want to talk to us about Infleshed, its conception, and now how it is in practice.
I would love to. I first have to give a shout out to Jay Kaiser, and Anna Bladel, who are my co-directors and co-mischief collaborators
Oh, I
in
love
chief.
that.
And they are wonderful, wonderful people. They started and fleshed because out of a deep ache and a deep wound from what they couldn't experience in traditional faith spaces. Both of them are highly trained. Anna just got their doctorate a couple months ago. So the good doctor,
Ooh.
the good
We
doc.
love us some good doctors.
Yes.
Yes, Anna.
Yes. And they experience so much harm in traditional faith spaces, so
Mm-hmm.
much misunderstanding of queerness, of body, of gender, of God. And they wanted a space where people could theologize, where people could connect to spirit, where people could walk out their frustrations and their questions with faith and spirituality. And so I'll forever be grateful to them, because I encountered their work at a time where I have to tell this story. Beyonce released a song, "You Won't Break My Soul," a couple years ago, and in it she says this line. She does a song with Big Frida, and Frida's like, release your jobs, quit your jobs, and everyone took that metaphorically, but I was working a very toxic place, and I did release my job, and encountered and fleshed work, and went through the hiring process to become the co-director that I am today. And I found them when my body and my spirit were really hurting, and they've been nothing but gracious through interacting and working at Infleshed. I realized how much of my soul had been bent by capitalism.
Mm.
And I will never forget the first couple of weeks of working at Infleshed. I would, because it's remote work, I would check in with M, and I would say, I've been working since 8 a.m. I'm going to take a break, but if you need to reach me, go ahead and, text me. And Em and Anna were so gracious. We don't care. We're not policing you, and neither do we need you to be productive. And so even the praxis of enfleshing liberation is knit into how they handle staff members, writers, etc. So all in all, Enfleshed puts out spiritual resources into the world, especially related to queerness, especially related to marginality, and trying to enflesh a new world that is possible. So
And I will put in a plug for Infleshed as a pastor who makes use of the materials regularly, and who I have gotten so much feedback from my own community of hearing the way the gender expansive language and the beautiful poetic creative writing that just lends itself to imagining the divine in new and beautiful ways. It's such potent work, especially for this moment where our imaginations are the most powerful tool that we have, I believe. And so that I'm just going to jump around in our questions list to the end because I wanted to talk with you about spiritual imagination. We're just going to go there.
Okay, hey, let's do it.
Yeah. I wonder for you what role imagination plays in this work that you do, especially as a Black theologian who is focused on liberation theologies, womanist theologies, imagination as a tool, as a muscle. What does it look like for you to exercise that in the work that you do?
My favorite question on this earth.
Oh.
We jumped to the
No, I love all of them, but I think what I love about that is I have to first call attention to, there's a book called Black Imagination that is curated by Natasha Marin, and I should get paid for how often I plug that book. But it's built on this concept that Natasha Marin asks to imagine a world where you feel safe, valued, and loved. And so she asks all of these different Black folks from across the diaspora a question: what does it look like? What does that future look like? And there's the most beautiful prose throughout that book as all of these different people, queer, cishet, all range, are imagining this world, and some are grief-filled, and even in their imagination they cannot picture that place.
Yeah.
And that's a painful, like, stark reality as you're sitting with that particular, reflection. And others write the most beautiful poetic nuances of that they can walk around outside at night and not have to fear because of the color of their skin. Other trans can imagine what it's like for binaries to be decentered, and where their Blackness and their gender expansiveness can be fully loved and hugged up on. And so that book, among many, stands as a sacred text for me in thinking about the role of imagination, because in order to craft a new world, yes, one part of it is deconstructing and divesting from those harmful things that we have learned and that we have created. But in order to do this well, we have to dream of something new, and it gives us sustainability. I think imagination is kind of like gas, and there's no way to just get in your car and just start driving without no gas in the car. And it's the animating life force that is in that car. And so imagination really helps me. And so Natasha Marin stands on one side of me, and I always have to say two other authors, Lucille Clifton.
My favorite poet ever!
I love it. Yeah, like Lucille Clifton has been someone that has held me in her work. And I think Won't You Celebrate With Me is one
What I have
of
shaped
the chief.
into a kind of life.
Yes. And she said, I had no model. I made it up. And so she does this imagery of, I didn't know the vision, so I had to make it up. Nothing was given to me in this place between starshine and clay. Here I am, and every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. And so Lucille Clifton's work, and then Bell Hooks's work, is invaluable at constructing a love ethic whereby which I understand myself, I understand my family, I understand the communities around me. And so all of that imagination work is at the heart of what I do, and it helps me make sense of my present. It helps me speak to the past, but it gives me a compass to go forward.
I love that you call that a compass, because those are guiding lights, right? Those are signals that we look for, indications that we need to know that we're on the right path, right? Because, Lauren, to your point, our imaginations are being co opted and misused constantly, right? We're being taught to dream in ways that are not, again, Robert, to your illustration of people who we can't even dream it. We're not even allowed, whether it's internally or externally, we're not even allowed to dream it. One of my favorite quotes ever, it reminds me of this, and I think about this quote all the time, all the time. The book of Ecclesiastes, right, says there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that has been will be. There's nothing new under the sun. And in Octavia Butler, may she rest in peace, right? In Octavia Butler's unpublished work, she quotes that line and she says, there is nothing new under the sun, but there are new suns. And again, Octavia
Okay,
Butler,
okay, Butler. Yes.
like I get chills. I think about it
Yeah.
all the time, because Afrofuturist, science fiction writer who saw the signs already and said creatively, I know that now is the time to dream. Like, Robert, I also, like Lauren, I love your materials. I love what's put out. I want to hear a little more about the creation of the materials, because those for whom they might not have seen them before, it is compelling language. It's beautiful graphics. It's a theology that I don't see expressed in a lot of marketable materials. And I would love to hear you talk about that part of it. For those of us who do a lot of putzing around, a little fooling around on Canva, right? Like, how does it happen? How do you
I
decide this is the prayer, these are the words, this is the image?
Yeah, we are all so different. I'll do an individual creation and then I'll do a corporate one. So individually, I tend to be someone that the inspiration comes from snatches of conversation. It comes from I cry a lot. So
Same.
so most things make me cry, and then those are usually the fruit of what I create. So it doesn't take much. It could be a parent holding their child, and I'll be like, wow, who's cutting onions? And therefore, the prayer, the poem,
Yeah.
all of that comes from there. And so I tend to write really quickly because it's snatches of inspiration that catch my eye. And so I create from that place. And that also helps me to not overthink it. So I just write down exactly what I'm feeling in that moment. And so I wrote this poem that went viral, and Richard Rohr and others picked it up on their platform. But it was Beautiful Possibilities, and it was around I had so much ache in my heart during Lent a few years ago as people were going to fast, and I'm thinking, there are genocides in Gaza, and there's already so much heaviness. I don't need to fast to enter into lament right now. I'm already here. There's micro and macro griefs already around us. And so I wrote about these beautiful possibilities. And in my mind, I was thinking of Jesus as being the ultimate beautiful possibility. And so that kind of flowed out of me one day based upon grief, really. And then there are these times where, and I know Anna, for example, Anna is completely different. Anna needs time. Anna is one of the most beautiful wordsmiths. And Anna needs an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 3 days, and will write some of the most crafted liturgy poems, moments for common nourishment that you will ever encounter, right? And that's not me, right? So we're so different in how we create. All of us are, and then it took years. We created this resource called Soft Words for Hard Days. We sat around a table thinking about everyone at that table was disabled in some ways, And we thought about all of the books that are written about disability theology. No comment. And we thought about
Mm.
all of the work that is out in the world, and we wanted a place where disabled people could reflect for themselves what are the ranges of experiences. What would it be like to write from rage? What would it be like to write about a letter to the Uber driver who could never know how valuable they are in the midst of a flare up? What would it like to be?
Mm.
I think Molly wrote one to the recreational pool and not knowing how that has saved their limbs and got the blood flowing, right? And so that kind of came out of this ache and this wound, and we wanted to sit together and muse and write from that place. And so a lot of our work comes from collective imagining, sitting down, maybe a little fighting, a little, okay, no, I don't like that. What if we do this? What if, no, we need this. And then some of the most beautiful work comes out of that.
Hi, listener. Hannah here. I wanted to offer a moment to pause partway through our conversation. If you will, join me in a bit of a guided meditation, just to check in for our bodies and spirits. Close your eyes, if that feels comfortable to you, and consider what you've heard already through this conversation. Consider how that feels in your body, if it's something you can name, and if it is, think about it as if it were something you could hold. I invite you to consider this thing that you're holding perhaps like a piece of jewelry that you're wearing around your neck. It might be something that's new, precious, expensive, rudimentary, dense, however you might describe it. And take a moment to interact with that piece of jewelry. Would you like to straighten it on your neck? Adjust it somehow? Do you want to take it off? Put it down? Are you comfortable carrying what you're holding through the rest of this conversation? What will it mean if you do, and what will it mean if you don't? I invite you to consider these things and make a decision that reflects what you need in this moment. We'll carry on with our conversation, but for now, I just want to say, I'm glad you're here.
I love that title of Soft Words for Hard Days, and hearing how it comes from a place of deep vulnerability in sharing the pain that connects us, the different kinds of pain that you experience within your team, but how that was a uniting experience in the midst of the vulnerability. And that's something that you talk about being committed to, is this practice of softness. And I wonder what role that plays for you in your work of theologizing and I mean all the writing and creativity that you put out into the world. And I'm also really curious about the connection point, bringing us back to Lucille Clifton and Bell Hooks and these other Black women writers. I'm curious about the ways that softness for you as a Black man connects you to the womanist experience and to the experience of Black women in general.
Yeah, womanism saved me. And I mean that
Wow.
so non-exaggeratory. It really did save me at a place where I remember exactly where I was when I first heard the term. And I had never heard it, right? And I
Wow.
remember I was at a conference and a womanist was on stage and used that word. And I was, I'm Googling, I was, what does that even mean? And I was so struck by how nuanced she was. And I was at a place where I was in the early days of being diagnosed. I had a cancer scare diagnosis. I was fed up with the evangelical commission, so to speak. And I was mentally, physically, spiritually sick. And I did not have an answer. And I knew white evangelicalism was not the answer.
Mm-hmm.
but
No
I
kidding.
didn't but I did not have a pathway towards wholeness, right?
Sure.
And right. And so I was just so disillusioned and so deeply suicidal, honestly, at that point. I want to be very transparent. And so I looked up womanism and I just looked up a book. The first book that came up was an edited volume by Mitzi Smith, and it's called I Found God in Me.
Wow.
And I really do credit that for saving me and for allowing me to be on the pathway that I am now. That book was full of reflections from so many womanists that talked about faith, talked about Black experiences, talked about Black men even in ways that were so generative and life-giving that I just felt like an ounce of hope and an ounce of light. And so so Black women saved me. And I mean that so seriously. And so it started me on the path to where I am now. And softness is something that I really have adopted along the way because I use it intentionally because I grew up in Chicago and the last thing a man wants to be called is soft.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so much homophobia knit within being called soft. And in my whole life, I felt like I was this estranged actor that was attempting to be somebody that I wasn't. And I did learn how to be hard. I learned how to be cruel. I learned how to survive in a world that would not accept the kind, tender-hearted person that I really am. I've always been that way. I always, since childhood, I would cry over, somebody stumbling or somebody, a child on the street. I would just start crying, right? But I quickly learned that that was detrimental to manhood, and it was a dangerous thing for a Black boy to be soft. We see the evidence of that all around. I think of Elijah McClain, who was killed here in Colorado. Softness didn't save him. You hear his last words, and he's forgiving the police who are choking the life out of him. And he's saying, he's apologizing, I'm just different, that's all. And that soft plea that escapes from him lets me know the danger of being a Black, soft male. The world does not love us, and the world can't love us. And so even knowing that, I adopt that language because that is the ethic of the world that I am trying to create, where soft Black boys and soft Black men can live and they don't have to fear. They don't have to fear in society, the church, etc. And so softness is a language that I have inclined myself to, and I write from that place of softness. And along the way, I've encountered ones like Ebony Janice, who wrote this book, All the Black Girls Are Activists. And she really dissects what it means to be soft and the life ethic of softness. And so, wow. I want a world where we all can be soft. And to, your point earlier, Hannah, I think when it comes to imagination, I often encounter people with a lack of imagination who will push back on things, and I have to continually put before them, we created that thing so we can uncreate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like I remember the largest, and then I'll stop talking. one of the most viral pieces that I've ever written is a piece on Substack called "I Do Not Dream of Labor." Whew, the pushback,
Ah,
90% of it was awesome. Maybe 95, let me not lie. The 5% were all males, mostly white males. They were all white males. Why am I lying? They were all white males.
Keep it real.
And there was just such anger as I talked about the soft imagination that I have, where I don't have a dream vocation or dream job. I want to be mediocre. I want to lie down and rise up in peace. I want us all to have our needs taken care of. And that made men so mad. Like, well, who's going to do that? We can't all be soft. And I was like, yeah, we could. We actually could. If we created the world any way that we chose to, we chose to make 40-hour work weeks.
right.
We chose
We
to
chose to make it hard.
Yeah, we chose this, and somehow we think that this is sanctified. But if we made it, we can unmake it.
Amen. And what an act of love to create spaciousness for
Yes.
Black boys, for Black men in particular, to be soft. What a loving act.
Yeah, I want us all to have that soft place. I want us
Yeah.
all where the soft places outweigh the hard places. That is why I work in the day and in the night. Is my focus is around Blackness and Black peoples, and knowing that in order to do that, I want a world where we all get to be soft, where you don't have to fake it till you make it, where you can just,
Right.
like, no, that sucks. I don't want any of us to fake it till we make it.
Right.
I want your unmasked self to be your best self, and it can rest in a soft place.
Amen. Robert, I'm curious. You mentioned that the reception to that viral piece was 95% positive. What is the general reception like on behalf of your personal work, the work you do at Infleshed? I'm particularly curious about the reception from Black communities and disabled communities and or Black and disabled communities, of the people for whom this work is most urgent, the people for whom this work is most necessary. Well, no, I take that back. This is actually urgent and
Yeah.
necessary for all of us. Maybe the people for whom this is a lifeline they're not otherwise afforded. What's the reception like in those communities?
Yeah, I think, and Flesh is a little bit different because, there are always the lurkers. And we have some trolls at Inflesh, and anything you say, there's always a DM on Instagram, and thankfully M gets rid of them quickly. So there's always random trolls who just insert an opinion. They do tend to be men. They do tend to be men. On behalf of my gender, it does tend to be male. So there's some there. I think on Infleshed, it's usually so, especially that expanded platform, because the focus is on revolutionary liberation work, and so many of the people are like, this is a breath of fresh air. I needed this. I needed to be able to talk about God in ways that were nuanced. I needed to feel anger and rage and to feel justified in that, right? And then in a lot of my personal work, the people that it's tailored to, I have found some of the kindest generative responses that always shock me. I grew up as a shy Black boy, and now I'm a shy Black man. And I never thought that thousands of people would read my work in one sitting, right? And so, I wrote a poem yesterday. It was called "A Poem to the Daddy Who Never Held Me," and I have been so struck by all of the responses, not just by Black and disabled people, but especially them, of the personal DMs, the personal messages of them needing that piece of their story to be validated. And then I've been struck by the wider community feeling such a resonance, even if they don't have that particular set of stories that I told in that poem, there was such resonance and such kinship that they felt with me. And that makes me feel good. I want people to feel when they read my work. I want them to be stung, a little bit challenged, but I want them to feel this is a place where you can. I often picture when I write a place by a fireplace. And
That's
the
really
image for
lovely.
me, yeah, like I will say, sometimes I'll say it on social media and I'll say, Pat's place by the fire, come and sit here. And and that is the seated place from which I write, in which I imagine. And so I think people can feel that. I do think at this point in my work that people know that even when I have to challenge you, it's from a seated place. And a lot of Black folks feel, yeah, that they can come sit with me. And then people who are not Black, no, yeah, you can come on, sit down, sit down, stay with me a while, Yeah.
I wonder, with all this work you're doing, you talked about day and night doing this work to be able to make a softer world. What sustains your spirit and what keeps your body going? We haven't yet talked about you being a runner. I'm very curious to hear more about that. So,
Yeah.
body and spirit, whole person, whole self. What is sustaining for you in this moment in particular?
Yeah, thank you. I try to get movement every day of some kind, whether
Mm,
it's running, walking, or cycling. And sometimes, depending on my pain levels, that dictates what the movement will be that
Sure.
day. And I found when I'm moving is I hate everything being framed in resistance language,
mm.
because sometimes I don't want to nap, as resistance. I just want to nap, I don't want to walk as resistance. I just want to be, I just want to enjoy the leaves too. But I do feel that in movement, it is resistance work. It is this place for me, especially when I'm walking, is where I work through a lot of personal turmoil. It's where I walk through frustrations. It's where a lot of poems come to me is on the walk or the run. And when I'm running and I got my music blasting, it's usually Megan the Stallion, for those who want to know. Um, you know, so Megan the Stallion or Dolce in the ears. And as I'm moving, I feel both the resistance and this ability to detach from my circumstances. And for
Mm.
the purposes of this cycle, this run, this walk, I'm free for just those moments, right? And and so that sustains me. That allows me to get outside of myself and allow me to just breathe fresh air. And so that's sustaining. And I'm a nerd. I think what sustains me is nerdy stuff. So, yes, it's the reading. Yes, I'm rereading. For example, I'm rereading All About Love by Bell Hooks
Yes.
It's one of
because
my
it's,
favorite books of all time. I'm so like when you
Yes.
talked about her work, her trilogy. Oh man, it's so good.
yeah, it's so good. I have to read it at least every other year. But I try to every year because when I open it, even though half now at this point, most of it's underlined,
Yeah.
it's always something new in here. I'm like, when she write this? And so that is sustaining. Reading really good books, reading really good poetry. I read a lot of poetry. And then somebody mentioned science. Oh, it was science fiction earlier. I watch a ridiculous amount of science fiction per week.
What are you into right now?
Oh, say less. I'm always into I'm always into Star Wars, always into Star Trek, always into shows. There's a show on Netflix called Supercell, and it's this fantasy that reimagines disability, Black disability, and what if it was an animating thing rather than a detracting thing. So it's based upon the reality that so many Black people develop sickle cell,
Mm.
and how they're treated by the government, how they're treated by people. But then there's an added benefit that these Black people also usually in the show they develop some kind of superpower based upon getting sickle cell. So it's shows like that allow me to escape into an imaginative space, and that is so nourishing to me. I also say Star Trek Discovery is such a beautiful, expansive. It's a black woman at the head of that show. It's queerness in there. It's imagined realities there. So yeah, that's me.
That's
I love it.
beautiful. That's beautiful. And I'm grateful for the recommendation. Supercell was the show.
Yeah.
I'm so
Yes.
excited to check it
It's
out. That's
great.
phenomenal.
And all the black people in there look amazing. Every
I'm
single person.
sure.
Yeah, every from the old to the young, from the young to the old, every single person. 10 out of 10, no notes.
It's amazing.
Robert, tell me about your God.
I love this. I'm such a curious person. So I think that's why I love it. And I think I find God that way. I find God to be ever curious. And perhaps that's a projection from me onto God, but hey, it is working. All my life I've had some type of spiritual basis, as I said earlier. And I was always curious to understand what makes life worth living. I remember, 5 years old, kids are playing with blocks. And I distinctly remember sitting there, in the early stages of my life and saying, what happens when we die, though? Like one day we're just going to keep getting older, and then there's nothing, right? And I wasn't raised in a Christian household or anything, and I would just ponder these things endlessly, late at night and early in the morning. And so I think in that way I've always been a mystic and a contemplative. And so who God is to me today is how I'll answer that. I often refer to God that way, and I say the God I've come to know. And so the God I've come to know today at 41 years old is deeply curious, deeply embedded in the stories that we share and that we hold on to one another. I think of God as a great storyteller. That has an endless tapestry of stories to tell and listen to. And so, yeah, the God I've come to know is divested from ideologies that harm those, those of us with stories. And that includes the earth, that includes creatures, all creatures of our God and King. And but yeah, I think most people, when they picture God, a lot of people picture God on a throne, and I picture God as a curious older person sitting beside me asking questions. Yeah. And along that route, I think something that really helped me in my grief journey is a book that shook up Christianity, but it's a book called The Shack. And I remember I was at a time divesting from evangelicalism as well, and the image of God being a black woman in that book was so healing for me. And the fact that she said in the book that, I chose this form because I don't think you could handle a father. Right. And that ability of God to adapt to what we need in various situations that was espoused in that book was healing to me. And so I picture God that way, that God isn't one thing, that God is able to adapt to the needs and the burdens that we carry.
I like that God.
I do. Yeah. I just it's curious. And there's another image in that book. And if there's problematic things in the book, I read it a long time ago, so y'all don't crucify me. Actually, the author, I don't know anything about.
You're like, well, let me tell you.
I don't know anything. I don't know them people. But there's another scene.
Sorry to this man.
Where the spirit is in this manifestation of this Asian woman and is working on this garden. Is messy. It is just messy stuff everywhere, and the main character Mac doesn't realize until the end that the spirit is working on this garden, but that garden is Mac. That garden is supposed to represent who he is. And it's messy and ugly to some, but to the spirit, it's a beautiful, all the textures of this garden are meaningful. And so I think of the spirit being able to be that way. That all my quirks, all my weirdness, all the nerdy science fiction things, God likes all that too. The fact that I stutter, the fact, that I rise up early, all of those are not hidden before the spirit in the spirit's work.
What a beautiful vision of being seen in the fullness of who you are. I wonder if a landing place for us with this conversation is to invite you to see our audience in the form of a blessing or a prayer or a poem. Is there something that you would like to share from your sanctified imagination with our audience as a way of blessing us or giving us a word of hope on the way?
I would love to. So I always like to tell people, if it helps you for a moment, you can take a deep breath. If it helps you to just close your eyes, if you feel safe enough to close your eyes, go ahead. And yeah, I'll just, this whatever's bubbling up, I'll just share it. So I do bless you today, knowing all of the weights and the griefs that you carry, that no one else knows, that perhaps you haven't even told God. Perhaps those things that feel too big, too much, or sometimes too small for you. I bless you. The overactive imagination that comes in the night that causes you to stay up all night, I bless you even there. And I bless you to know that you are your own best thing. That you who have encountered so much, seen so much, done so much, have kept on living all of these days, all of these months, all these years. And I bless you to know that not only are you your best thing, but you are a blessing to the world, a blessing to God. And yeah, I bless you to know that today is the only day afforded to you, that you are doing your very best, your very, very best with all that is on your plate, with all the joys, and you're doing your best with the resources that have been allotted to you. Ashe.
Ashe and amen. Thank you so much.
Robert, what a delight to have you in this conversation, to get to know you a little bit more, and to get to watch you continue to thrive, inspire, create.
Yeah,
Thanks for being a part of this with us.
No, thank you so much. I've so enjoyed it. And Reverend Lauren, when you reached out, I was like, absolutely.
I'm so honored.
And I don't usually do that.
Such a joy.
Oh, yay! We are so honored. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank y'all for holding my stories. Thank you.
What a privilege. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of A Soulful Revolution. You'll find links to follow our guests and the resources they shared in the show notes. As always, A Soulful Revolution is entirely made possible by listeners like you. If you like what you heard today, please consider becoming a paid subscriber on Substack or sending us an appreciative gift on Buy Me a Coffee. Your solidarity helps us to bring more conversations like this into the world, and we're grateful. Our theme music was created by Richard Ashe, Andy McGantz, and Ben Schreiber, with production by Richard Ashe for Plus Ultra Audio. A Soulful Revolution is produced by Stephanie Whitehouse of SPW Design Media. We'll see you next time, Soulful Revolutionaries.